and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics either in business or in life and simplify them. And now I am so excited to share my next guest with you because, some people you meet in life and you're like, yep, I'm going to get along with you just fine. And this man is certainly one of those that I consider part of my tribe. I'd like to introduce you to Nigel Collin. In 2013, armed with a video camera around his side, Nigel set off on an initiative to travel through Australia, solo on his motorbike to discover ingenious Australians and share their stories. His quest was to inspire the nations and lead the founding of Ingenious Oz Project. In 2014, as an ambassador of Startup Australia, he interviewed hundreds of Australian top entrepreneurs and business leaders. He also created his first business at the age of 20, sold it off at 21, and owned one of the largest and most successful entertainment design companies in Australia. He is now the founder and maestro of Game of Inches, helping us to get the best return on constant innovation and improvement. I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Nigel Collin. Hello, Nigel.
Hello there, Mary. How are you doing?
I am so glad you are here today. And I don't want to talk big, heavy terms. I don't want to talk lingo and jargon. I want to simplify things today.
Cool.
And here is what I know about you. You are an expert in understanding how to make achievable and sustainable growth in a small business. Is that true? So
that is true.
And so I'd like to talk about this whole thing, the Game of Inches. What does that mean?
Well, look, what it means is that there's a myth out in the world of business, especially in business, that in order to grow or to achieve or succeed or do whatever it is that you want to be doing, that somehow you've got to completely reinvent everything, that you've got to invent the next iPhone or you've got to somehow disrupt your industry. And, everywhere you turn in the media, there's stories of big, ideas that, someone in venture capitalist pays you billions of dollars for. And it's not true. After you interview hundreds of businesses or you talk to successful people, success happens one step at a time, right?
Yes.
So it is literally a game of inches. It's small steps put together that get you there. And there is a myth out there in the business world that, you just got to somehow tackle the mountain in one foul swoop. And it's not true. It's not true. That's hard. That's scary. And it's fraught with danger, So business is a game of inches. And I love that so much that I literally changed the name of my company to Game of Inches because of it.
And I've seen it myself as well. So we dabbled a little bit in e-learning and online education about 4 years ago when we moved our company to the UK. And at that point, we were part of a business accelerator program and put to pitch in front of investors and, do the whole song and dance. And now I'm good at the song and dance, but, it's funny, when you do the pitch and every single investor on the judging panel says, oh, well, tell me what my return on investment is. I'm not going to give you any money unless you give me the hockey puck, hockey stick return. And, it's sort of one of those things of like, well, wait a second, pause. Do I even need investors in the first place to do what it is that I want to accomplish?
Yeah,
and the answer is,
do you want somebody?
Yeah, I don't know.
No. Well,
let's just say
many people. Some people like going down that route, and let them go is what I say. But
Yes.
And the other thing is, do you really want someone hanging over your shoulder every step of the way, breathing down your neck, telling you how to do things because they have a financial investment in it? And look, I'm not saying that VCs are bad. I think if the situation is right and depending on your business, go for it. But either way, Mary, you know what? I have never met anybody who has succeeded in anything of value, whether they're an Olympian, a business person or a community leader, whoever they are. I've never met anybody who has succeeded who hasn't understood that it's, step by step, who hasn't put in the work, who hasn't just gone inch by inch. That's just how it is. So life success is a game of inches, full stop.
Yeah. So tell me then, where do you begin? Let's say somebody's listening to this podcast and they're thinking, well, gosh, I really want to start my own business. I want to screw the 9 to 5. I want to jump off the corporate ladder.
Yep.
What are the first steps?
Yeah, interesting you said that. Start where you are, pretty much. Start where you are. So what I mean by that is, we read books, we have mentors, and I'm all for that. I'm a huge advocate of constant learning. But often we want to move the start line further down the field so we're closer to achieving our goals. We want to achieve this year's plan in 9 months. We want our new staff member to be up and running 100% before we put them through the whole process of learning and getting up to speed. We always want to jump ahead of ourselves. And the truth is, we need to start where we are. There are people out there now, as we speak, starting businesses who have probably had 3 or 4 businesses in the past. They know what they're doing. But there are other people who are starting a business for the very first time, and it's scary, and they don't quite know where they're going. And they're at different points. They're at different positions. And so that you need to start where you are. And I honestly think that that's really important because one of the pitfalls is getting ahead of yourself is what we're really talking about. And so start wherever you are. That's where you need to start and be cool with it. Don't worry about what the other guys are doing.
Yeah.
Not important.
Oh, no, I think that's certainly a trap is when you look at, say, somebody else's Instagram following or you see their bright and shiny, flashy videos or personal branding photos and you go, here I am suffering. I've got my iPhone, propped up against my cookbooks in my kitchen. It's tricky.
Their lives are better than yours. Their coffee is better than yours. Their kids are better than yours. Their holidays are better than yours. Their business is better than yours. It's a crock. It's not.
A crock.
There's a great Zen Cowan, which is like an old Zen story about a builder a very wealthy merchant, who had a lot of money and wanted to live on the 3rd floor because if you lived, that was about where technology could build to, 3 floors was about as high as you could get. And if you lived on the 3rd floor, you'd made it, right? You were big time. You could overlook all of your land. You could overlook all of your people. And so he hired a heap of builders and he said, make me a home on the 3rd floor. And off he went on his travels and sold his wares or whatever he did. And he comes back and the builders are still working like on the 1st floor. They've done the foundations and they're now working on the 1st floor. And he sacked them all, fired them. And they said, why did you do that? Why are you unhappy with that? And he went, well, I didn't want a 1st floor home. Why are you building the 1st floor? I only want the 3rd floor. And the lesson is, well, you've got to build the 1st and the 2nd before you get to the 3rd. You've got to start where you are. And if he had the 2nd floor, cool, but he didn't. So you got to, I just think it's so important in business and in life.
And do you know what I think also stops a lot of people from starting a business is they don't really know where to begin. And so, you hear from kind of the older generation of mentors that say, well, you need to obviously write a business plan. So get to writing 50 pages, bish, bosh, bush. And then somebody looks at that and goes, I don't even know where to begin. A tool that I use, and I'm curious if you have a tool as well, is the Business Model Canvas by the Lean Business Methodology. Have you ever heard of the Business Model Canvas?
I think I've got it.
Yeah.
I've got the link. Yeah. Yes.
I'm
looking at my bookshelf.
Yeah, I'll put the links down in the show notes below for people. What I love about the Business Model Canvas concept is, of course, it simplifies writing a business plan onto one giant legal size piece of paper. So you don't get stuck in the details because that's where you get is like, oh, I have to plan, and you never actually execute. So what about you? Is there a tool out there that can get somebody who's brand spanking new to running their own business up and running fast?
For me, it's not a tool as such that you can download or anything. I like, for me, if you can't fit it into a page, then it doesn't work. And I should have brought my business plan with me, but let me just quickly draw something for you. This probably isn't going to make a lot of sense, but it makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. And in the end of it, that's kind of all that is important, right?
Yeah.
So hang on, stay with me for a sec. Right, this is for this year my business plan.
Yes.
Right.
So
very simplified.
Yes, to illustrate this or describe it in an audio version, what he's showing us is 3 circles that intersect, and there's a nice little spot in the middle where all 3 circles intersect. You've got S, F, and T. Tell us what that means.
Correct. Okay, so it's a Venn diagram, basically. And these are my 3 pillars. So S is for speaking. So a lot of what I do in business is speaking. And I need to make sure that I'm at best practice of that I keep pushing that. Because if I get complacent, someone else will do it better than me. So that is one pillar of my business that I'm focusing on. The T is for training. So what my company is doing at the moment is we're starting to scale and leverage the training component. So we head into organizations and we do training on game of inches. We've got a process there. But the plan is to start scaling that up. So that's another one of the pillars, if you like, of my business plan for the year. And the F stands for facilitation. So we do a lot of strategic work with organizations. And that's it. That's the only 3 things we're focusing on this year in our business plan. Now, around that are the figures and the numbers and all of that, and the KPIs and how many people we've got to touch. And, you can get really bogged down in the tactics of how we're going to achieve that. But at the end of the day, if we get the S right, the T right, and the F right in the middle, where they all intersect, is this beautiful sweet spot. And that's where we hit our yearly plan. Now, that's actually stuck on the wall in my office over the other side. And every day we sit there and we can see it. It's simple and straightforward.
Yeah.
Now, it goes against a lot of textbooks. But when you think about Google was drawn on initially, in the very early days on a table napkin, why not do your business? And I think if you cannot draw your plan on a table napkin and show it to someone across the table and explain it, it's too complicated.
Yes. It's
way too complicated. Keep it simple, because otherwise you get overwhelmed. There's so much going on in our lives anyway, especially if you have families and friends and, we got finances and mortgages and all that. And then you've got a business on top of it and your car breaks down and the dog's sick and, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's amazing we get anything done anyway. It's so overwhelming. And this is why I love the Simplifiers. I just really wish I'd thought of that. Because it's so true. But it is so cool because unless you can really just knock down on what's important, you're not going to get anything done. And as far as I'm concerned, I just need to focus on those 3 things this year. That is it. Nothing else matters, right? And underneath it, there is all of this stuff. But each and every day and each and every week, and I was speaking to my manager just today, is what we're talking about, is what we're doing going to serve one of those 3? And if it's not, what the hell are we talking about it for?
Yeah, and I think what the trap can be, though, is you lose sight of what's most important, what you're focusing on, or you fall down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out some bit of technology that is not your area of expertise, or some sort of blah 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 blah, and that's where it's like you fall over yourself, I think. And what I'm starting to learn myself, and also interviewing people like you who remind me and go, oh yes, just beat it into my brain a little bit more, is you have to outsource. You have to outsource the stuff that is not your zone of genius, so that you can focus on the stuff that you're really, really good at, right? Would you agree?
Absolutely. I totally agree. And what's difficult, I think, in the early stages of a business, in the adolescence of a business, is it's hard to let go because we're all control freaks.
Yes.
It's our business. And if I don't do it, no one's going to do it as well as me. But the other side of it is, in the early stages of a business, is that there's the cost factor. It's going to cost me X amount of money to farm that out and get somebody else to do it. Can I afford to do that? And the question then becomes, well, what's it going to cost you if you don't? Because the mental anguish and the cloudiness of your mind. So absolutely you need to outsource, delegate all of those tasks that, so you can just focus on what you do really well and you can focus on that plan. Because if you don't, nobody else is going to.
Yes.
Your accountant, the bank manager, your clients are not going to ring you and say, hey, how's the Venn diagram going? How's the S and the T and the F going? They're not. They don't care. You need to do that. And in order to do that, you're absolutely correct, Mary. You need to completely and utterly clear the clutter and simplify your life, there we go again, so that you can focus on just that. And it's actually quite liberating,
It is. And then once you realize like, oh yeah, actually I've got a team, and I'm really into virtual teams these days. A team no longer means having a full-time 40-hour week kind of on benefits and holiday pay kind of person anymore. Like technology's come a long way in the last 5 years so that you can have team members all over the world working for you and with you to help push the project and the business along.
Yeah, and having said that, though, you really need to be. You need to spend the time up front selecting the right team players.
Yes.
And I think with outsourcing, it can get very easy to find someone somewhere who's $5 an hour or something, and they're just not going to deliver. So you need to do your research and you need to test and give them a couple of easy projects and see how it runs. You've got to be comfortable with them. They have to be. It's just like employing anyone, right? So there is a little bit of an investment, not just money-wise, but time-wise up front.
Yes.
However, I think that's because, when I first started using virtual assistants, I got burned big time. It just didn't work the way I wanted it, and it cost me money, and in the end it really cost me money because I had to retread water and all that kind of stuff. So put in the effort to start, which may seem to be, counterproductive, but in the long term it's so much better when you do it that way.
Yeah. So what did you learn in those situations for where you maybe had hired a VA and then got a bit burned? What would you do now differently that you didn't do before?
I would test. So
give them a couple of small projects?
Sure. Yep, absolutely. So in the early stages when I first started working virtually, it was kind of like I found someone that had a skill set, they got the 5-star rating or whatever it was, and I rang them up and they sounded great, and yeah, cool, and just dump all this work on them, and it's just like, oh my God. So now I've just gone actually through this again with an audio editor for some of my stuff. And so I just found this great guy, and I just sent him 2 files, and if he stuffed them up, didn't really matter. But they came back really good. So I sent him another 2, and it came back really good. So I'm going to go, yeah, we're good, right? So I think just game of inches, just little, give them a little task first and see how it goes, and don't get too into it. And honestly, don't get upset about the fact if it ain't working, it ain't working. Just go find somebody else.
Yeah. And I think having that clear communication up front is really, really important, right? So I find also the secret to success in working with virtual assistants is having a very clear creative brief right in the get-go of this is what we're trying to accomplish. These are the tasks and objectives that, what we're needing help with, and on paper, written, not just something like on the cuff, like, oh, I think I need you to do this, and this, and this, and could you do all of this? But in the brief, be hyper specific. So your audio editor is not your personal assistant, is not your email manager, is not your Facebook ad strategist. They're just that bit, right?
Yeah. And are they improving it? Are they making it, are they clarity, or are they actually editing? Are they just taking out the background noise? Because there's different levels of expertise in everything.
Yeah.
So and absolutely,
one more thing, and also I think communication is so important too. So like, is that, using Slack or Trello or Asana, what your tools for communicating back and forth on a daily basis is really, really important as well.
Yeah, and you also need to find people who are on your wavelength that you like, that you get on with, because they kind of, after 6 months or 12 months, you can just kind of email them and go blue, 20 seconds, and they get it. It's a bit of an extreme, but so I have a concept I call defining the box, and defining the box is listing the parameters and the constraints and the boundaries of something. So if you're working, and this happens with everyone, with proposals, with everything, but you've got to know what's the rules of the game. And so the box is an analogy, if you like, a metaphor for the size of the box might be, the time you've got, the budget you have, the whatever, the constraints, just the rules. And if you don't define the box, it's almost impossible for somebody to do anything. To think outside the box, you've got to stay in the box, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So part of my process is always, what do I want them to do, but what's the box? if they don't know what the rules of the game are and the parameters are, it's almost impossible for them to work. And what's interesting, a lot of people think that inhibits other people from doing stuff or it constrains them. It actually liberates you. When you know what your budget is, and you know what your deadline is, you tend to work quite creatively within it.
Yeah.
So, I always find the box. In bullet points, do this, do this, do this. These are not negotiable things. And people like you for it because they know what they're up for.
Well, and also I think it's really, really important to say out loud, a relationship between a virtual assistant and you is not a boss and employee kind of relationship, in my opinion. I think it is, you are the client. You're not the boss. You're the client. So in order for the vendor supplier to succeed in the task that they've been given and be able to report back to the client, how to do it, you need to define the box. It makes a lot of sense.
That's a really interesting thing you just said there about being the client. I have always looked at it as being partners. Now, I don't have a business partner. My wife is my business partner. But I kind of look at it as a relationship. But I actually don't like business partners because I'm just too, I don't know, dogmatic, egotistical, whatever. However, when I'm working with suppliers, and when I had an entertainment company, the performers we had weren't employees. They were partners. And I always see it as my job to nurture them, to make sure they've got what they want, because I just know if they're happy and comfortable and they have everything they need, they're going to give me 110%.
Yes.
We were the only entertainment company in Australia that sent Christmas cards to our performers. Because most of them would want the performers to send Christmas cards. Then no, because I want them to fight tooth and nail to do one of my gigs, right? So when I'm working virtually with a VA or an audio technician, whoever it is, I always look at it as I'm, in a weird way, I'm serving them. Because if I don't give them what they need, they're not going to perform. They're not going to be happy.
Right.
So they're kind of going to become robots or mechanical and they'll get the job done, but they're just kind of going to get it done to the level that needs to be. But if you want excellence, if you want to build a relationship, it's almost, I see myself as second.
Yeah.
And because of that, they're going to give me their best. It's kind of a weird way of looking at it, but I've always looked at the supplier relationship as a partnership. Not as a business partnership, but as a relationship. And I think that's really important because they've got, don't kid yourself, right? They have other customers. They have other people they're working with. And they will, and I will too, but they will spend their time. They will put in their effort. They will give the best to the people they like and trust the most. End of story. So I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I just want them to, cancel other jobs so they can work with me on my projects.
It's such a simple little shift. It's a tiny little thing that you just said, but it's a shift in your mindset as well as the leader. So let's switch over to that a bit and talk about what it takes to really cultivate what I like to call a champion's mindset, because that's really what it comes down to. There's a reason why Olympic athletes do so well is because they have, a champion's mindset. So can you talk a little bit more about that and how that applies to the game of inches?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things in there. This is a really big topic. But you're absolutely right. I've interviewed hundreds. I've interviewed Olympians. I've interviewed, billionaires. And you tend to, and you've noticed this, through your podcast and all your work in the past, when you come across someone who's doing an exceptional thing, they just see the world in a different way. They just kind of have this different mindset. Some people call it more positive or more optimistic, whatever it is, but they just have this different way of approaching the world. Their language is different, their body language is different. And I think it comes down to two things. And there's a myriad of stuff under that, but let's just keep it simple, right? The first one is they know what drives them. They know what they're passionate about. They know their why. And, there's a lot of talk in the business community about knowing your why. And Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, and it's great stuff. And a lot of us kind of try to fabricate that or pretend what it is, or, but when you meet someone who's really successful, in whatever capacity, they just know why they're doing what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they can't articulate it. It's interesting, sometimes you ask them and they kind of can't really nail it, but they know what their quest is, if you like.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because otherwise, when there is a challenge or stuff gets hard or the bills don't get paid and the bank rings you and all that stuff, and it will happen. If you're in business, you are going to get challenges. It's knowing what drives you that gets you through those challenges. Because otherwise it's too hard, you just give up. What makes an Olympian, go through what they need to go through to get that gold medal. And there's only one gold medal, every 4 years. They are just driven. There is something in them that's what they've been put on this earth to do, kind of deal. So I think that's the first thing. How you find that is a whole different conversation. Some people just have it. Some people search endlessly for it, and it changes for many other people. But I think what's important is this is very kind of contradictory, but not to get too caught up on it, but understand that it's important. It's a bit like, this is probably going to sound really gender bad, but it's a bit like when you're young, and you want to, I suppose it's the same for girls too, when you're looking for a partner, when you're looking for a girlfriend or a boyfriend, the harder you look, the less chance you've got to find one. It's not going to happen. But as soon as you kind of go, whatever, bang, it happens. And I think finding your why is a little bit like that. But what I do know is it's paramount. It is a not negotiable characteristic or trait of success. And I've never spoken to anybody who succeeded who doesn't. What's really fascinating there is when you interview people and you go, hey, what drives you? If they're on the mark, if they're successful, big or small, whatever they're doing, if they're doing something of value and you go, hey, what drives you? Instantly they will tell you. Instantly. There's no pause when you just go, yeah, you know what it is? They might not articulate it very well, but they just in themselves know what it is. And an example of that, I spoke to a guy here in Australia who's making a new bike rack for the back of the car, so you can put like 6 bikes on in 2 minutes by yourself without them falling off and, all that scraping your knuckles and stuff. And I said, man, what drives you? And he's not a cyclist. He knows nothing about push bikes. He's an engineer. And I said, so what's your thing? And he goes, when I was 8 years old, Andrew Taylor's his name, when I was 8 years old, my dad wanted to ride on one. He didn't want to buy one, so he made one out of an old mini miner. And ever since then, that's just what I do. And that's how he described it. And so it's really important. And I'm really harping on about it because it's really important.
No.
The other thing, though, I think, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I 100% agree with you. And I think that one of the practical ways to start understanding what your why is, or even just how to begin, for me, is journaling. Like journaling. I've gotten into the habit of doing bullet journals 5 minutes in the morning. Like literally, that's it. It doesn't have to be this long, drawn out thing. And even if you're absolutely deathly afraid of writing, or you think you've got a limiting belief story in your head that you're not a good writer, it doesn't matter. Like just getting whatever is in here and in here, your brain and your heart out on paper, it helps you start to see visually, because I'm a visual learner, like, Oh, I think that's weird. I didn't realize that I thought that, or I didn't realize that was so important to me. So sometimes just the simple as getting it down onto paper and looking at what you write every single day helps you get clarity on finding what that why is and refining it down to, yes, that's it. That's what I want to go after. Or yes, those people, that's who I want to really, really serve. Or yes, that is something that I could talk for hours and hours and hours on end at a dinner party. Then you get onto your why and figure it out.
Because you start to see patterns.
Yes.
The other thing to do is to kind of sit down and go, what do I actually spend most of my time doing?
Yes.
Because, what you spend most of your time doing is what you kind of like, So if I'm running a business and I spend most of my time on my CRM and talking to customers, then, that's probably my thing. And it changes, but you're right. It's an important thing to have. And I think in business, because it is so talked about at the moment, it's one of those kind of buzz things, it's a buzzword, why? It's like innovation and disruption and all those other great words. It's kind of the talk of the town has diluted the importance of it. And it's very intangible and soft and waffly. Mm-hmm. But, it's always there. Mm-hmm. It's always there.
Yeah, it's huge.
The other one, which I only discovered a few years ago, one of my mentors, a guy called Simon Reynolds, who was a bit of an advertising guy in Australia and now lives in the US. Very successful man, very smart guy. Gave me a book and he said, read this, it's going to change your life. And it was a book by a lady called Carol Dweck called Mindset. So Carol Dweck was an educator back in the 70s, did a heap of research. She's a psychologist, wrote a book about 12 years ago that is still on the top 10 bestseller list. And basically what she says is that there are two types of mindsets that we adopt. There's a fixed mindset and a growth. And fixed is where you believe your abilities, your skills, your talents are fixed, right? So you're born with a certain level of smart, and that's where it ends. You're good at this, you're not good at that, right? If you succeed in business, it's because you're just a good business person, right? And if you're good at art, it's because you're just born good at art. This is what you'll think, right? And it doesn't change. You're just born that way. The other mindset that you can adopt is what's called growth mindset, which is the opposite. So that's where you believe your abilities and your talents and your skills can be nurtured and grown, that you can learn new things, new skills, new abilities. And with neuroscience, we now know that the brain is quite malleable, I suppose. In neuroplasticity, we can learn new things. But the point is this: if you have a fixed mindset or you adopt a fixed mindset, when there's a challenge or when you don't hit your monthly figures or the bank doesn't give you the loan or the venture capitalist turns down your idea, it's because you don't have the smarts. You don't have the ability. You start that up. But if you have a growth mindset, you kind of walk away going, okay, we must have missed something. Or what can I learn from that? Actually, they said if it was for this market, it would be a more interesting proposition. So maybe we should look at that. And so with a growth mindset, because you believe you can change, you tend to see challenges as an opportunity to grow.
Yes.
And really interesting book. And there's a lot of research backing it up. But basically, we're not born with one or the other. We choose to adopt one or the other. And most successful people tend to be growth mindset. And you look at an Olympian, the things that they go through to get there. If you're a fixed mindset, you just go, your coach comes up and goes, you know what, your knee's wrong. You've got to change the angle of that, get your speed cutting in harder. And you just go, I'm just not good at this because you keep telling me what I've got to get, I keep doing it wrong.
Yeah.
There's a growth mindset. You go, yeah, cool. That'll make me better. That'll make me better. So I think those two things together, there's others, but I think one, find your why. And most people who go into business, I believe, go into business without knowing their why. They go into business because they see somebody else do it. They think it's going to be easy. There's the price was good, or got this great idea, and there's that little spark, that bit of passion. If it's missing, a year down the track when it all goes wrong, and hopefully it never will, but it's that drive that keeps you going. And I think a lot of people jump into business without really understanding why they're doing it.
Yeah.
And then the mindset thing you can learn,
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right and head dead on to that in particular. One of the Simplifiers' core values is fail fast and learn faster. Like that is in essence us, so we put things out in the market. Sometimes it does fantastic. Sometimes it fails gloriously, and that's okay because we always, whether it is a new product or a launch or an event or whatever, we always ask the questions of what worked, what didn't work, and, lessons learned. What do we know now that we didn't know before this thing every single time? And doing that simple framework is a great way to just sort of take an assessment right where you are and go, okay, right, so that part didn't work. So what do we know now that we didn't know before? Okay, then we're going to do this, this, and this differently. And you're constantly in a state of pivot.
Absolutely. And two things, I think, from that. Harvard Business Review did an article for probably 18 months ago, called the ROI of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. I just love the heading because it frames it like the return of investment on making a mistake. If you document and learn from your mistakes, you're moving ahead, right? Which I think is really important. The other thing that comes through there, and fail fast, is, coming back to the game of inches philosophy, if you stuff it up in a small step, it's not going to send you down the tubes. It's better to fail fast and small than to wait to the end and fail big.
Yes.
So, it's almost like if you take a small step, stuff up the small step, make the mistake small, learn from it, and that way, you haven't sunk all the resources and the time and the energy and the emotional baggage into something.
Yes.
There's nothing worse than getting 2 years down, the track in a project. And you and I have both worked in events, right? There's nothing worse than on the night when everything goes wrong. I'd rather fail in the lead up. I'd rather have the client read the script and go, no, that's never going to work, or have the AV do the lighting test a week out.
Yes.
Let's fail leading up to it. Let's fail in small pieces, because if we wait until the event for it all to go wrong, it's a disaster. Mm-hmm. And you would never do that in the events industry. You would never do that. So I think fail fast, fail small, regularly, learn from it. There's a guy in Australia who has a long story, a tourist operation up in the northern part of the country, which hits cyclones. It's right in the middle of the cyclone belt. So major hurricanes, major storms. And he bought it, and about within a year, a major storm came through and basically wiped it out. And it took them about 3 months to build it back up and reopen. And then they got hit with another one a year or so later, and it only took them 3 or 4 weeks the next time. And then another one came through and did it again, and they got and most people, well, not most people, but if you had a fixed mindset, right, you can't go, well, that's a dog of a business, we shouldn't have bought it, let's sell up and we'll move on. Mm-hmm. But he said, it took us 3 months to get up and running the first time, but now, it can come through and hit us just as hard, and we'll be up and running within, a week to 10 days. And I said, how did you do that? And he goes, the only way you can learn to go through a cyclone is to go through a cyclone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've never forgotten it. And no one likes making mistakes, right? No one likes things going wrong. We want it all to go to plan.
Yeah.
And God willing it will. However, it's not a perfect world, and we're not perfect people, and stuff does go wrong. And I think the less we can get upset about that, and we just think, well, that's just part of the process. It is. It's just part of the process. It becomes easier. And if you know why you do what you do, it just helps you get through that. The other thing, though, you don't know why your people do what they do. Your staff have a different why, you have a why. Your suppliers have a different why to your why. And once it's nice to figure out what your why is, what drives you, what your passion is. You got to understand your team, your virtual assistant, whoever it is, they have a different passion. They have a different why. They've got a different reason for working where they work, or working with you or for you or whatever.
Yes.
And so we've got to be very clever at understanding that difference. Mm-hmm. That, if I understand your why, then I'm going to be better equipped to get the best out of you, to engage you, to get your ownership, to fire you up, to motivate you, all of that sort of thing. I'm going to get better results from my employees if I know what turns them on.
Yeah, and don't assume it's always money. This is a lesson I learned a few years ago. Is that not everybody is motivated by a giant salary or a big bonus structure or cash. Some people, it kind of revolves back around to. Have you ever heard about the 5 Love Language by Gary Chapman? I'll put the link down in the show notes, but the 5 Love Languages is a fascinating book, and it relates not only to personal relationships, but also to businesses as well, about understanding how people like to receive and give love in the world. And it's really, really interesting in that. So some people are all about gifts, or let's just say money. Some people are all about quality time. Like, is my boss, is my mentor spending time face to face with me. Or some people appreciate words of affirmation. So just somebody that says, hey, Nigel, you're doing a great job. I saw you do this bit on this project. That was incredible. And just saying it to them either privately or, in a in-face meeting with the team and other people hear it. That's it. Like, that's what you need. Another one is acts of service. So, hey, Nigel, I see that you're struggling with, lots of things on your plate. I'm going to take these tasks off your plate this week so that you can do what you need to do. And the last one, which doesn't really go into professional, but yeah, I guess it could, is called physical touch. So like literally some people just love a high five or, a pat on the back or, something along those lines. So I love that in the 5 languages and how to relate that professionally, it works. And the real big kicker on Gary Chapman's concept there is that what are your love language, like what you like, how like you like to receive love, is not always how other people like to receive love or what have you. So remembering that, because you keep forcing your way on them because you're like, well, that's what I am. Why aren't you responding to it? And actually they're looking for something completely different.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And I think this is a skill that we are losing in the modern world, is really listening, really being in tune with that other person. I remember as a young actor, a young thespian, doing a lot of mirroring exercise,
yes.
Mirroring what the other person is doing, which is all very weird.
Yeah.
But in essence, really important, because we have to tune into the other person. And so there's a lot going on, but I think there's a lot of people out there just so concerned with what they're doing that they're missing these enormous opportunities of the relationships that they could be having, or serendipity, those opportunities that come about through what someone says or does or offers, or, something just like a simple high five can really cement a relationship. And from that relationship come opportunities or longevity or whatever that is. And if we ignore these little things, that in the end could make a really big difference to us. And that's really nice. I really like that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, because someone gave me a high five. I'm not a high five guy. I'm a hug guy, which I can't do anymore. I'm sort of that emotional, tactile. I will tell someone, I like being told I've done a good job, but there are people I work with who love the high five thing. Cool, okay, I'll go there, It's not me, but I'll do it.
Yeah. And I love that.
So is it really going to affect me if I do? Like, is it really going to, no skin off my nose kind of deal?
Yeah. So to wrap up, there are a few questions that I like to ask every single guest on the Simplifiers podcast. And by the way, Nigel, thank you so much for being on today. I mean, I think you are a wealth of knowledge, and I think this episode could go for hours and hours on end. So maybe we need to do a part 2 and check in with you the next book that you write. So let's put that on the calendar now.
Okay.
So talking about simplifying, are there any good apps that you have stumbled upon, or tools or actionable tips that you're using right now? One teeny tiny thing that could help us simplify our life, either in business or personally.
The one that has really made a difference for me, because I suffer from squirrel syndrome.
Yes.
Chasing squirrels. Or BSO, bright shiny objects, is called Pomodoro.
Yes.
Pomodoro technique. And you can now download Pomodoro as an app. So for those listening or watching who don't know what the heck is that, there was an Italian many years ago who was going through university and found it really hard to focus for a long period of time. That's me, right? And so he figured out he could focus on anything for 20-odd minutes or 25 minutes. So he got an old kitchen tomato timer.
Yes.
Right? And set it for 20 minutes. And he figured if I just work for 20 minutes, I can focus on anything for 20 minutes. And then it would ding and he'd give himself 5 minutes just to, fart around and do whatever he needed to do, and set it for another 20 minutes. And then had another 5 minutes off. So basically, it's 20-minute focus, 5 minutes. 20 minutes focus, 5 minutes. And you have a long break, and they're called Pomodoros, the cycles. Mm-hmm. Pomodoro time has changed my productivity because I can focus on anything for 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely true. And what's really interesting is neurologically, they're now discovering that the brain, your thinking, your energy starts to fade after about 22 minutes. So Pomodoro time has been the one thing at the moment that has really, really making a difference for me.
I
Do you want
love
another
it.
one?
Yeah. Well, no, I love that. Pomodoro is something that we use on a regular basis at the Simplifiers team. 100%.
Hey, really?
Yes, 100%. And the secret is with the 5-minute break, you have to get up from your desk. Like, don't be like, oh, I'm in a flow. I just want to keep going. No. Like, that's part of it's just as important as the 25 minutes on is the 5 minutes off, whether it's stretching or getting a cup of tea, or if you're really ambitious, do a plank or some jumping jacks. I don't know, go for it. But changing that perspective is important.
And it's great for procrastination.
Yes.
I introduced it to my daughter who's at uni, and she was having trouble starting an assignment. You know, I don't know, I have trouble doing proposals. So I'm like, I don't want to. And I said to her, just do Pomodoro. She went, oh, but I can't. I said, just 20
do
minutes.
it.
Just start for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And you can, and she just did 20 minutes, and that created momentum.
Yes. Yeah.
So it is astounding. Yeah.
It is. So tell us one person in your circle of friends or your network that you think we should interview on the Simplifiers podcast, and why. One person.
Simon Reynolds. 2 eyes. Because he's been a mentor of mine for many years and is one of the smartest people you will ever meet. Very successful business person, very successful, super nice guy, lives in LA now. We spoke earlier about, when you come across someone successful and you see that they just have a different way of doing things and a different mindset, that is Simon. He is one of the most inspiring people you will ever meet. And he just straight up popped up. I like you, having grown up in events, and I'm a professional speaker myself, I spend my life at conferences talking to people, and there's very few people I will go out of my way to hear speak, and Simon is one of them.
Love it. Great.
Yeah, and for 2 reasons. He's got the runs in the board. He knows business. Like he can solve almost any problem business-wise. But when it comes to mindset, he, for me, he's the benchmark.
Brilliant.
Definitely.
Brilliant. So, Nigel, in my opinion, gratitude and simplicity, they go hand in hand. Tell me, what are you grateful for these days? You know what?
I'm getting to the middle age of my life.
What? You're like in your 20s, right?
Yeah. No, thanks. I'm grateful for where I am, which sounds kind of weird. So I live in the country in Australia. We have not a big farm, but a farm, and I look out at my paddocks and my horses, and we live in a very modest house. And I'm just grateful for where I am. There are certain things I haven't accomplished, like most people, and I could get really upset about that. But I'm just really comfy, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I've married my wife. 30-odd years now we've been together, and I'm just cool with it. I could say I'm grateful for what I've achieved because, I've done some pretty cool stuff. But that's just kind of done. No, I'm just grateful for where I am. And I'm quite future-focused. I know where I'm going. But at the end of the day, for me, 2 things. I don't know how long we've got. 2 things. Contentment is my word. I just want to be content. Yeah. Right? That's, the money's nice, but it's got to support my contentment. I've got the perfect lifestyle, I just need the money to support it kind of deal. Yeah. So contentment is my thing. Yeah. My wife and I, when we got together years back, actually sat down one night and said to each other, we don't ever want to do 9 to 5. And by that, we meant we don't ever want to have a job. We don't ever have to go to the office and do all of that stuff. It's not about not working. We have to work hard, but we want to do it our way. And to this day, halfway through the day, if we want to go have a cup of coffee downtown, we'll go and do it. Yeah. That's what I'm grateful for, is we've lived by that for 30-odd years. And so we're just happy here. And I don't know if a lot of people can say that.
Yeah. No, I love it. So what is one superpower you possess, and how did you develop that skill or trait over time? Just one.
You know what I'm really good at? Yeah. I'm really good at nurturing other people. I'm really good at drawing the ideas out of other people and making them feel empowered because of that. I'm a natural facilitator. I have ability, and it comes from my entertainment background, I guess. I'm just really good at sitting with a group of people and helping them nurture their superpowers.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's
I've seen you in action doing that, and I certainly agree. There is a certain skill to that. Like you said earlier on, is you have to be an excellent listener. You have to be able to read the room, and the body language, the verbal and nonverbal cues, but then helping people feel safe. To facilitate, getting those crazy ideas out or the scary, icky stuff as well. That's how you make progress.
Key points. Key point, make people feel safe. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to, we talked about failure, don't be afraid to say something that people think you're an absolute idiot over.
Yes.
I'm quite happy, and I learned it when I was pitching, when I had, you're pitching intangible concepts, you get kind of good at it. But I've never been scared of going and asking those questions that people think are kind of stupid, because that they're going to get a reaction or something. And I don't mind walking out of a room with people going, he was absolutely rubbish, if I get the results from those people.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it to pieces.
So my last question for you is this, Nigel, and thank you again for being on the podcast today. So somebody has been listening to this episode and getting inspired. Maybe they're just at the beginning stages of starting a new business, and they're thinking, oh, well, maybe it is a game of inches. Maybe that's just simply it. But the mountain looks scary. I don't even know where I'm supposed to head next. It's big. I can't see the horizon. I'm a little bit overwhelmed right now. What would you whisper into her ear right now just to encourage her in this moment?
So the mountain's too big. Just get to the first base. Just get to the first campsite. You don't have to scale the mountain today. Just get to the next campsite. Just get to the next step. Just get to the next part. Start where you are. There's some people near the summit, but you're not. So let's just get to the next point.
Yes.
And then once we get there, we can get to the next point. And then we can focus on the next. And before you know it, you climb the mountain. There's a wonderful book, and I can't remember who it's by. It's on my bookshelf over there, and I can't read it, but it's called The One Thing. Mm-hmm. And it's about that. It's about what's the one thing that drives you. But my interpretation is, well, what's the one thing you've got to do now to help you get up the mountain? Let's not focus on the summit right away. That's out there in the distance. Let's just get to the next point, Just don't overwhelm yourself. Just do the next thing.
Yes. So The Game of Inches is a book written by Nigel Collin. It is out for sale right now, anywhere, Amazon, Audible, you name it. You can go find it and learn more about The Game of Inches. Also, Nigel, you hang out on Facebook the most. So your Facebook business page, again, we'll put these links down in the show notes, is Nigel Collin Speaker. So make sure to click there and check him out. Nigel, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
No, thank you for having me. I loved every second of it. Cool.
Yes. Awesome. As always, my friends, keep things simple. If you want more like this, please do become part of our free online community called the Super Insiders. So you can simply go to thesimplifiers.com/super to sign up and be part of that and get to meet interesting, amazing people like Nigel himself as well. Thank you again, Nigel.
Thank you. See ya.